We are back with another episode on the Daily Vedantic. Today's episode is on the anatomy of fear, this emotion that we all feel, sometimes comes to visit for quite a while in our lives. But what underlies this powerful emotion of fear? The philosophy of Vedanta tells us that fear comes from a desire to not lose what we have. That the underlying emotion, the underlying issue with what's going on is that there is this strong desire to not lose something that we have. It could be the fear of losing your life, losing your health, losing your job, but it is a fear of losing something that you currently have, or you think you have. Maybe you think you've got this job in the bag after a great interview. You kind of expect it. Your mind switches into thinking, oh yeah, this is ours. This is mine. And then you wonder, because you haven't heard back in 2 or 3 days and 4 or 5 days, you have this fear that you're not going to get it after maybe you told your spouse, your significant other, that you had it in the bag. This fear that you'll lose reputation if you don't end up getting it. Whatever that loss is, it is a loss that we fear of some kind. And beneath that is desire to keep what we have. I was watching Dune 2 the other day with my brother, and cinematically, special effects wise, phenomenal movie. But there are a few just philosophical things so unnecessary within, not in making the movie, but just in the drama that was unfolding within it. And it's a shame because Frank Herbert actually lived on a houseboat. The author of Dune lived on a houseboat right next to Alan Watts and got a lot of the spiritual aspects of the Dune story, which is kind of the subtext of the story itself. He got that from his conversations over several years over drinks with Alan Watts. Little factoid for you. But what bothered me most in the film is that there's this line and this kind of narrative within it of fear is the mind killer. That this notion that fear, being afraid, jams up, locks up your mind from being as powerful as a healthy, powerful mind can be. In fact, there are few things as powerful as a healthy, powerful mind. But the notion of fear as the mind killer is that underlies an unhealthy or a locked up mind. And a capable mind is destroyed by fear. And that isn't correct. What destroys the capability of our minds is desire. Fear is just a symptom of that. You desire to keep your job. You desire to keep your health. You have this strong desire for no one around you that you love to go through anything tough, to suffer from ill health or die. And then you form all of these fears as symptoms of that underlying desire. But it is that underlying desire that you can dissect, that you can observe, witness. That's where you could operate from, is on that underlying desire. Why do I want this job so bad? Am I even qualified for this job? If my boss doesn't think I am I wired for this professional path? Maybe this is liberation, because liberation comes in many, many forms. Not wanting anyone around you that you love to die. Maybe they're really sick and that's their liberation, but you want to keep them around, like a elderly parent or elderly grandparent. I know when I went through a death at an early age with a family member, with my sister, it was, and I've said this on the podcast before, it became the greatest teacher in my life. an invaluable teaching moment on the preciousness of life that I could not have gotten from any book or from words from anyone living. And I look back at that experience as an invaluable one that I would have never designed. Liberation comes in many forms. And sometimes it's through losing something that we have, that we become liberated, that we become wise, that we become infinitely more helpful, useful, of service to those around us. So what is the anatomy of fear? Fear is the symptom of a desire. And our desires are malleable. We can shift them. We can change them. In fact, through reflection, desires start to just fall away. Through understanding, desires almost eliminate themselves. It isn't easy, like bench pressing 300 pounds isn't easy, but it is simple. Bench pressing 300 pounds is not very complicated. Hard, but not very complicated. And eliminating, reducing our desires, it is not easy, but it is pretty simple. Daily reflection, questioning everything. Questioning even the moments that we thought we got what we wanted. Were those things what we really wanted? Was that desire honestly healthy for us? Was that fear of losing something that ended up liberating us? Was that perhaps the healthiest thing that we could have asked for? Fear is not the mind killer. Desire is. And that is today's reflection on the Daily Vedantic. We'll see you next time.